Hi, I'm Jacob Hornberger, Libertarian candidate for president, and as you can see, I'm on the road again, and so you get an on the road again commentary. And I'm going to give you some really big developments here on the circus that's coming to town. It's really turned into a one-ring circus. It's the Donald Trump circus, and that's reflected by this letter that I saw an email by the head of the Mises Caucus. That it really tells us what's going on here. In this email, the head of the Mises Caucus, now the Mises Caucus, of course, has endorsed Michael Rectenwald as their presidential candidate. Mises Caucus controls the Libertarian National Committee. They had all their people installed there, and they're trying to run people for re-election, keep control. So this guy says, we all know that there will be no Libertarian Party presidential candidate elected president. And so this move, he says, by Angela McArdle, the party chairman, who the Mises Caucus has endorsed for re-election, was a masterful touch when she invited Donald Trump to come and address our convention. Okay, now, what is the connection here? They've clearly quit. They've thrown in the towel on the presidential race, the LP presidential race. And they're settling for Donald Trump, who is their hero anyway, because they consider him a libertarian. Michael Rectenwald even voted for Trump in 2016. And a vote is an endorsement. Angela McArdle publicly declares that Trump would be a better president than Joe Biden. That's as good as an endorsement, because what they're saying now, they're quitting the presidential race, not formally, but they're now throwing in with Trump. And so Rectenwald is going to be a stalking horse, a partner, an ally, if he wins the nomination for Donald Trump. He's essentially saying, I can't win the nomination. I can't win the election, but your second best choice is Donald Trump because his immigration position is fantastic. That's what's going on here. They've quit. They're quitters. And they're thrown in with Donald Trump. Why? Well, this guy explains it in this email. Donald Trump will listen to our grievances. He's coming to our convention to listen to our grievances. I mean, I'm sitting here saying, oh my God, this is pathetic. This is the mindset of a serf, of a defeated, quitting serf that has accepted his role as a serf. Think of the Middle Ages. I think that's when the serfdom was in effect, where the lord of the manor owned the serfs, owned the people working on the manor. He owned them. They were like private property. And so if the serfs had complaints, he might get them together like on a Saturday afternoon and say, okay, I'm here to listen to your grievances. And they would say, well, this is wrong and this is wrong. And he would say, okay, well, I'll give it consideration and I'll let you know what my decision is. But none of the serfs ever questioned their serfdom. That was just normal, that they were serfs, and that it was just normal to express their grievances to their owner, to their master. That's the mindset of this guy here. He says, it's just friggin' fascinating in this email, Donald Trump will listen to our grievances. He's coming to our convention to hear us out as we present our grievances. I mean, the master is coming. The guy who's part of the destroyer of our freedom, the welfare warfare state party, is coming to listen to our grievances. And then this guy also says, and not only that, but we have influence over Donald Trump, that we're influencing him in a libertarian direction. And he quotes Trump, and he says, Trump is using the same line he used in the 2016 race when he was running, that I'm going to drain the swamp and I'm going to terminate the deep state. And this guy says, see, we're having influence on Donald Trump. So they're quitting the presidential race for all practical purposes. They want Rectenwald to still be the nominee, but in support of Donald Trump, because we can influence Donald Trump if he's elected president. And as Angela McArdle says, he's going to be better than Joe Biden. Well, of course, what this guy doesn't point out in his email is that after Trump took office, after he got libertarians to vote for him with that line, including Michael Rectenwald, but a lot of other libertarians who said, oh, Donald Trump's a libertarian, Jacob, he's a libertarian, okay? And because any freedom-leaning Republican is now considered to be a libertarian by the Republican lights in our party. This is what I've been saying from the very beginning of this campaign, that Republican light is just like a freedom-leaning Republican. So, I mean, all kinds of Republicans are now libertarians under that definition. Blake Masters, libertarian. Ron DeSantis, libertarian. Donald Trump, libertarian. There was libertarians for Trump in 2016 and in 2020. So when Trump gets into office, after inducing all these libertarians to vote for him, the first thing he does in terms of draining the swamp and ending the deep state is surround himself with generals. and John Bolton, too. And then he keeps the troops in Afghanistan. He keeps Guantanamo Bay open. He keeps the torture regime going. And then, as soon as he gets into office, he runs over to the CIA to pay homage to them. Now, you would think that he would expect the CIA to come and visit him. He's the president. No. He goes to the CIA headquarters and bends the knee and kisses a ring. So when the CIA says, Mr. President, you are not going to release the records that further incriminate us in the assassination of President Kennedy, Trump salutes and says, yes, sir, and obeys those orders, clicks his heels. And then when he had the opportunity to pardon Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, and Ross Ulbricht, when he was pardoning all his cronies, the Pentagon and the CIA said, and the NSA said, you're not, don't even think about it. He clicked his heels and said, yes, sir. Now, is any of this in this email from this Mises Caucus? Of course not, because Trump is their idol. He is their new candidate. They have quit the presidential race. And let me tell you something about quitters. Quitters never win, okay? They don't win freedom, because when you quit, you cannot win. Freedom will never be given to people on a silver platter. It's never happened. And you got to fight for freedom, no matter what the odds are. I don't care if the odds were at 0 to 1%. You fight like you're going to win. You fight hard. You never give up. This guy has won. They've all given up in favor of Donald Trump. He's become their candidate. And that's what Rectenwald is going to be doing. Now, remember, Rectenwald voted for Trump in 2016. He was counseling Republicans until Michael Heiss, who was the founder of the Mises Caucus, goes into his office and says, hey, I want you to join the Libertarian Party. You're going to be our nominee. We control the party. You're an automatic shoe-in. You will be the presidential nominee. We can bring Republican-like positions, including immigration controls, to the American electorate on behalf of the Libertarian Party. And Rectenwald says, great, that sounds good to me. Up to that point, he had been counseling Republicans. In fact, you can see the article that he wrote called What Next for the Right? Google it, Michael Rectenwald, in a right-wing rag called Chronicles Magazine. And in this article, he's counseling a Republican president. He's saying, this is what a Republican president should do. And one of them is seal the border. Okay, that's Donald Trump's position. That's why Donald Trump is a hero to this guy. Rectenwald's celebrating, exalting over the fact that his hero, Donald Trump, is going to be speaking at this convention. There's some of us that are fiercely opposed, saying, this guy is our oppressor. He's our destroyer. He's part of the machinery that has destroyed our freedom and continues to destroy our freedom. He's just one wing of a welfare warfare state party. He's their standard bearer, the people who destroy our freedom. But no. For Rectenwald, this is his hero, because seal the border. That's what and which of course means the military. Okay, you need the massive military establishment. Both Rectenwald and Trump recognize that, to seal the border, and that's what they want. And then finish the wall. Rectenwald says a Republican president should finish the wall. He's referring to Trump's wall, what I call the Berlin Wall, because that's what it is. But you know what that means. That means eminent domain stealing of people's property. That's the only way you can get that wall. So you've got this spectacle of the possibility of a Libertarian Party presidential candidate that's going to be advocating the stealing of people's property through eminent domain. And then finally, Rectenwald says evict all illegal immigrants. Well, you know what that means. And that's Trump's position too. That means a massive reign of terror, FBI-driven, ICE-driven, immigration service, snitches. It's the only way you can ferret out these 10 or 11 illegal immigrants, 10 or 11 million illegal immigrants. But they're on there. Here he is counseling Republicans, and then he switches over into the Libertarian Party. I guarantee you, it is a no-brainer for him to say, well, we can't win. We know we can't win. And so Donald Trump's our man, especially on immigration. And there's precedent for this. There's a guy named Wayne Allen Root that came into our party from the Republican Party, standard Republican light guy. He runs for vice president with Bob Barr, another Republican. Now, this is what I've been talking about and what I talked about in my long series of articles on Substack.com more than a year ago, which I would invite you to read, that at this point, the party is turning toward republicanism, Republican light. It's like the new Coke and the classic Coke. The new Coke is the Republican light message that comes to define the party in our presidential campaigns. It totally submerges the brand of principled libertarianism that I advocate, that I'm advocating in this race. That becomes the defining message. And so Wayne Allen Root and Bob Barr come in, and they're libertarians, Jacob. They're libertarians, just like Donald Trump, Blake Masters, Ron DeSantis, Tom Massey. We're all libertarians now, Jacob. It's like, it reminds me of Richard Nixon when he said, we're all Keynesians now. See, all these freedom-leaning Republicans are really libertarians. And so there's this revolving door that's been established between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. The press refers to the Libertarian Party as a right-wing party. I mean, that's what we are. We're a right-wing party. And that's what we become, unfortunately. But they don't consider it unfortunate. They consider this a really big asset, that we're right-wing oriented and that people know we're right-wing oriented. Well, I'm saying this is the cause of the 0 to 1%. Because when people are given a choice between Republican light and Republican, why would they waste their vote on Republican light? And so this guy, Wayne Allen Root, comes in. He actually, in addition to being the vice presidential candidate, joins the LNC, gets elected to the LNC, serves in the LNC. And one day, it was around 2011, 2012, he writes this long letter saying, I'm leaving the Libertarian Party and going back to the Republican Party. I've had a great time serving with y'all, but I can advance our principles better in the Republican Party. Now, he's referring to the Republican light principles that he was enunciating in the LP, like immigration controls, reform. But he ends up endorsing Mitt Romney, who's the Republican candidate in 2012, instead of Gary Johnson, who's the Libertarian Party. Now, Gary Johnson, another Republican. He comes in, he's redefined as libertarian, he's got the Republican light message. He loathes the principles I stand for, of principled libertarianism, loathes them, just like the right wing in our party today loathes them. And so what does Wayne Allen Root say as to his justification for endorsing Mitt Romney? He says Johnson can't win. The Libertarian Party presidential candidate can't win. And so we need to go with the real Republican. And that's exactly the mindset of the Mises Caucus and Rectenwald at this point. That we can't win, and so we need to get behind Donald Trump. And that's what they've effectively done. If this man is made the nominee, this will be a campaign for Donald Trump. And let me tell you something else about quitters. Okay, quitters will never win freedom. There's no question about that. But there's something else to consider here. I've been in this party in this movement for 36 years. As you can imagine, I've seen a lot of quitters. A lot of people have quit. Oh, Jacob, it's too big. It's too powerful. The state's too big. You're tilting at windmills. The Pentagon, the CIA, the whole welfare state, the duopoly is just too strong, Jacob. We can't beat it. And so they dropped out. They just quit. In fact, some of them have even gone from principled libertarianism to Republican light. It's a fascinating phenomenon because they've accepted their role as serfs. And they're saying, let's work to improve the serfdom. We'll never be able to achieve freedom, and so we're going to accept our serfdom and we're going to try to improve it with reform. Tragic, absolutely tragic. But once they quit, they'll never achieve freedom. They can't achieve freedom because their mindset becomes one of a serf. They accept their plight as serfs. Now, is it difficult? Of course it is. If freedom were easy, everybody in history would have had freedom. It's a very difficult thing to achieve. It cannot be achieved without fighting for it and never giving up. You got to fight and fight and fight. I don't care if the odds are 0 to 1% or whatever, because you never know. What you do know is if you quit, then you got no chance. If you keep fighting, I don't care if it's 0 to 1%, you got a shot at winning. It may be a long shot, but who cares? And even if you don't, at least you have the consolation that you have fought. I'd rather go down fighting than to be quitting and throwing in with Republicans and accepting my serfdom. It's like Star Wars, you know, where C-3PO says to Han Solo, "The odds, sir, are," and Han says, "Don't tell me the odds. I don't want to know the odds." Because you're going to fight. If you're going to fight, you don't need to know the odds. You just keep fighting and fighting, and that's what we need to do in this party. Quitters never win. They may win a nomination, they may win Donald Trump back in the presidency, but they will never win freedom. And that's where the soul searching in this party needs to take place. What are you here in this party for? Why are you a libertarian? I've been asking that question at every convention. This is where the soul searching is. If you want freedom, then you have to fight. You cannot quit. You have to keep fighting and fighting and fighting no matter what the odds are. Imagine George Washington facing the most powerful army in history, the British Empire. They didn't have hardly any chance of winning. He didn't care about the odds. He fought for freedom. They wouldn't give up. And they waged a guerrilla campaign. They waged a guerrilla campaign, and they end up prevailing. And that's what I'm saying in this party. You see, I've been saying from the beginning that we are relegated to 0 to 1%. That's not going to change. I've said that from the very beginning, and my detractors were saying, "Oh no, Jacob, that there's so much dissatisfaction with Donald Trump and Joe Biden. They're going to default to the libertarians. Where else can they go, Jacob? They're going to default." And I said, no. They don't have to default. They can stay at home. 50% of the people don't vote. And sure enough, here we are, right before, a few months before November. It's no different. We're at 0 to 1%. One poll had us at 0, literal 0, a couple months ago. So if voter sentiment hasn't changed in 3 years, it's not going to change over the next 3 years, 6 months, 5 months, 4 months for the LP. Why would it? Because people that are oriented toward Republican light and reform are going to vote Republican. And that was my thesis, and it still holds. It's now finally settling in on the party hierarchy. They're starting to realize I'm right. And that's why they're giving up. Yeah, Jacob's right. We're not going to be elected president. We're not even going to get over 0 to 1%. But here's what they're ignoring. There's a way out of this. This is what I've been saying from the beginning, that we got to change directions completely. And then we can achieve a breakout of some 10 to 15%. Now, what is that difference in direction? No, it's not giving up. It's not quitting. That's their direction. They're saying, okay, Jacob's right. We're going to get 0 to 1%. So we got to throw in with Donald Trump. That's our best bet here now. We become influencers. He'll listen to our grievances. Hopefully he'll be elected president. No. That accepts the serfdom. Change directions completely is my method by changing your message, abandoning, rejecting Republican light, including especially immigration controls. This is our greatest opportunity, is immigration. Greatest opportunity to break through enemy lines. They are vulnerable here. The other side, Trump and Biden and Kennedy, they're all vulnerable right here on this issue because they're defending 80, 90 years of death, suffering, kidnappings, rapes, detention centers, highway checkpoints, warrantless searches, a massive police state, a Berlin Wall. None of it's worked. Perpetual crisis. As Mises pointed out, the central planning will always bring you. And that's what you have, a socialist central planning system on immigration. They are vulnerable here. We can break through enemy lines and do some massive open field running here. No question about it, in my mind. This is our issue. The opportunity may never present itself again. Right now, this time in history, in the history of this party, we can achieve a breakthrough on this issue. Not to mention the other issues I've mentioned, like blacks. The newspaper over the weekend or last week said that black support for Biden is diminishing rapidly. That's why he went over to Morehouse College and HBCU there in Atlanta. He's trying to shore up his black support, but it's not working. Those are our voters. This is why I'm saying about running a guerrilla campaign that doesn't target Republicans, that instead targets an entirely different group of people. They can't do this. The Mises Caucus people, the party hierarchy cannot do this. They cannot move in the guerrilla kind of warfare that I want to give, which means they have to give up. And why can't they? Because they loathe open borders. They can't go with my plan because of their support for Donald Trump and his immigration control system. They want this party to join the Republicans, to merge with the Republicans on this issue of immigration, which would be a disaster, violating the core principle of our philosophy, the non-aggression principle, and the pledge that we all take, never to support the initiation of force. They can't go in this direction because they loathe my principles. They loathe them. They hate them. And so they say that the only thing they can do is give up. Give up. And I'm saying we never give up. We always keep fighting. And even if I'm wrong about the 10 to 15%, I will continue fighting. It doesn't matter. You just got to keep fighting and fighting and fighting if you want to be free. You never give up. You never quit. And that's what these people have done. They have quit. They won't put it in that formal terms, but that's what they say. As soon as they say a libertarian can't be elected president. Really? Tell me why not. Well, Jacob, because the odds are against it. Don't tell me the odds. You see, because regardless of what the odds are, you have to fight like you're going to win. You got to fight against this machinery that has destroyed our freedom, that has destroyed our well-being, that has enslaved us, that has converted us into serfs, welfare, warfare, state serfs. You have to fight this machinery, which they're not willing to do because they want to cater to one of the standard bearers for this machinery, Donald Trump. It's one party divided into two wings, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, and Donald Trump reflects one of them. But the quitters think that that's a better half of this party, of this machinery that has destroyed our freedom. I say there ain't a dime's worth of difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. They are both enslavers. They're both part of this massive machinery. And to relegate ourselves to expressing our grievances to our masters, it's not for me. Okay? I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death, because I will continue fighting, fighting, and fighting. And if you go through soul searching and that's what you want freedom, then join me. Join me, because that's the only shot you have to achieve freedom, by continuing to fight for it. I'm Jacob Hornberger, Libertarian candidate for president. My campaign website is jacobforliberty.com.